Tonight's the last night, really, of the retreat, even though tomorrow there's a party, but this is kind of the last time I can give some serious teaching, so I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity. But first, I think we should start with what's happening in the world and our relation to it. This week, the Hindus have been celebrating Diwali. And although we haven't really referred to that holiday, we have actually been practicing its inner meaning. So because we're not Hindus, we don't need to perform the rituals that they do. But I do think it's useful to understand those rituals because they are all the secret ingredients to the attainment of liberation. Diwali is the big holiday of the Hindu tradition. And Hinduism, we could say, is the final iteration in Kali Yuga on a macro scale of the Adi Sanatan Devi Devta Dharma. And so we clearly have a relationship to Hinduism, although every religion, every branch of all of the tree of life, all of the Kali Yuga religions derive from that root. And we can see the holidays of other traditions, other religions, derive from those original holidays of the Adi Sanatan Dharma. They are all branches of this Dharma that is the trunk, which is why Diwali is the only holiday, actually, that's practiced by Hindus, by Jains, by Sikhs, by Buddhists, and now by British, because, of course, the Hindus have conquered Britain. For over 100 years, the Brits ruled the Hindus, and now finally the Hindus are ruling over the UK. And they have a rishi, in fact, so, it's a total triumph of the Adi Sanatan Dharma. I even saw that he was lighting Diwali lights in front of 10 Downing Street, so, it's a Hindu abode officially now. So Christendom is over in the UK, and the new divine order has begun. So, it isn't really a joke, and it's interesting that Hindu politicians are rising all over. I mean, in the U.S., for example, the only really interesting politician is Tulsi Gabbard, and she's a Hindu. But there are a few other Hindus in Congress, and Hindus who are rising in many countries as leaders, because they still have a relationship to the Dharma, which gives them a kind of credibility and legitimacy of authority that even if they don't really have it, the shine of it is still there. And the kind of noble demeanor that those who are brought up in that Dharma tend to have, which is much different than those brought up in the postmodern Western A-Dharma. Did you have a question or a comment?
No, I just wanted to add that New York City declared it an official holiday this week.
Okay, well then we're all Hindus. If you're a gringo, you're now an official Hindu. Because New York, let's face it, that's our cultural capital of the world, and so, we have been initiated. And so the world is now a Kumbh Mela. So I think it's very interesting that Diwali is happening right now, and it's also important for us to note that the Western equivalent of Diwali is Halloween. They are actually the same holiday, okay, and I'll explain that to you in a moment. But it's also true that Diwali is a number of holidays put together because it's 5 days, and each day is packed with significance. So I want to go over with you what the inner meaning of the ritual metaphors of Diwali are. But one of the main symbols that people are drawing all over the place on Diwali is the swastika. And it's also very interesting that the swastika was present has been present throughout the Kalpa. It was the symbol of the Adi Sanatana Dharma, and it means the most auspicious, the highest, the most beautiful. There is so much that is packed into the swastika symbol that it has remained even in its final iteration in Kali Yuga as Nazism. But there was still that desire, even though we can say corrupted, but of the Aryan ideal, and Aryan means noble. Okay? Now, granted, it was rather mistranslated into a master race that would dominate, not through wisdom and divine love and nonviolence, but nonetheless, the fact that the symbol remained, even as a signifier that's misunderstood, is significant. And the fact that Diwali is now in the world news means that everyone has some interest in what are the symbols, what does this holiday mean, why are they celebrating this? You know, and of course it's called also the Festival of Lights. So the Jews think of Hanukkah and people think of other holidays that celebrate divine light. And light is the essential symbol of every religion, you know, from Zoroastrianism on. Light, the divine fire, the Ner Tamid, the eternal light of God. This is the primary symbol. And the swastika both represents that light, and it represents the movement of the light through time, through the yugas, and it represents the presence of the 0 point in each yuga, the presence of God moving the entirety of the cosmic unfoldment to return to the absolute purity and beauty of its original state, because it's a cycle, and so it returns to God. You can't get away from God, even though people in Kali Yuga believed they could and become nihilists and deny the reality of God and all of that. But the last word will be had by God, not by the humans. And we're in that moment now where people do see the end coming. So personally, I'm celebrating no longer having to be Chicken Little, you know, and telling people that the end is coming, because now it's obvious to everyone that the nukes will soon fly. So I'm done with that subject. I don't need to tell people that time is short. So instead of that, let's focus on what we need to do in the time that remains, because this is the most important time. And it is the most auspicious if we make it so, if we understand it the way it is meant to be understood by God, who gave those symbols in the first place to us in order to use our buddhi to understand and to liberate ourselves with that knowledge. Okay, so that's the first, let's say, passage, I suppose. Let me see. I made some notes so I wouldn't, my dementia wouldn't get in the way of what I wanted to tell you. Well, okay. I think I will start by going through the 5 days of Diwali with you, and that will probably be a more logical way to unfold the inner significance, and then we can see how it relates to Halloween, which, by the way, remember, is All Hallows Eve, right? Halloween is a 3-day holiday, really, because it's All Hallows Eve, followed by All Saints' Day, followed by All Souls' Day. So, you have a multi-day holiday that actually is pursuing the same itinerary as in Diwali, which you will see. So Diwali is 5 days, but the first day is considered day 0 or day -1. The first day of Diwali is the day before Diwali, okay? And that day is you could say it's the original Yom Kippur, before there was a Yom Kippur, by thousands of years. It was a day in which you would fast, and repent for whatever you did wrong, and you would pay off any debts that you had to anyone. You'd clear the decks and be at peace with your neighbors and with your with God and with your family, and have a clean heart, and be able to hold your head up high in society. You've paid your debts. You're not a cheat. You're not a someone who is not trustworthy, so that you can come to the festival as someone worthy of the Dharma, who is an Aryan, who is noble, who has proved your nobility. Despite the fact that you may have fallen during the year, you've come back and you have proven that you're responsible. So that's the first day, and it's called Govatsa Dwadashi. Does anyone want me to write any of this on the board? If you do, or you want Swati to write it on the board, you can ask her to do it. But maybe you want me to do. All right, I'll do it. It's my job. I'm surrendered. I'll do it. But it's a lot of extra time then.
I can do it. It might be spelled wrong.
So day -1, we'll call it. Govatsa Wadashi. Does everyone know? Is anyone? Do we have any Hindus here? Okay. Anyway, I hope not. Actually, I don't really hope not, because I think that this holiday, the go is of course means a cow, and so one of the things you do on this holiday is celebrate sacred cows. But when you're celebrating the sacred cow, you're celebrating, of course, altruism, benevolence, the milk of loving kindness, all of that. And you're also celebrating the bull. You're celebrating in particular Nandi, Shiva's bull. And everywhere in India, there's a slightly different form of Diwali, depending on which are the Ishta Devtas of that region, right? Some regions worship one god or goddess more than another, and so the Diwali rituals are altered in a way through that. So it's called Govatsa Dwadashi. It's also called Vag. VAGH. I won't bother putting that on there, but that means it's a day of repayment of debts. And on that day, you visit the cows in your neighborhood, because there will be cows walking around your neighborhood if you live in India, and you bathe the cows. And you put garlands on them and celebrate them for their goodness in giving you all the milk that enabled you to survive during the year. So there's a thankfulness to the cows. By the way, the swastika symbol is not simply present in India. It is found through all of the ancient cultures. I don't know whether you're aware of it, but the Anasazis had the swastika. The Hopis and the Navajos still use the swastika, and with basically the same meaning. It's in the Norse peoples. There's a famous ancient stone found in Denmark by archaeologists, the oldest finding in Scandinavia with the swastika on it. The swastika is the symbol of Thor and his lightning bolts. So it's also the Vajra, but the swastika symbol is present everywhere, and it's of course in the South Pacific. It's in Bali, of course, which is a Hindu island, but it's present in many cultures, and because it was Thor's lightning bolt, that's how it got to the Germans, the Germanic tribes. Via Thor, but Thor comes from originally he's a Shiva impersonator. So you have this this pagan diaspora that all comes originally from the gods and goddesses of the original Dharma. So that's the first day. and you are fasting, and you're taking care of the cows, and you are preparing yourself spiritually for what you will then be doing on Diwali proper. So Diwali, the day one officially, is called Dhanteras. Dhan, remember from dana, charity, philanthropy, giving, sharing, goodness. So on this day, you spend the entire day doing things like cleaning your house and decorating it appropriately for Diwali, fixing everything up, and you of course part of the decorations are creating the rangolis, which are mandalas that usually include swastikas that people paint on the floor, they paint on tables, they put them on the ground outside the house. They are all over the place, but they are in a way making the earth sacred, so that you are literally walking on the presence of God, and the presence of God is visually everywhere. So you can't not be in remembrance. So the idea is that you make your entire environment a reflection of the understanding of the meaning of reality from the God's perspective of it. So that's basically the first day. Then the second day is the most important. Which is actually the third day, of course. Okay, Naraka Chaturdashi. Naraka is the ultimate demon of Hinduism. And he is the terrifying demon who is so, not only are humans terrified of Naraka, but the gods are frightened of Naraka, okay? He not only conquered the whole world, but he conquered Swarga. Can you believe it? He conquered Indra's kingdom, and he was totally taking over the realm of the gods. There were only a few gods who skipped out and were kind of doing guerrilla warfare, from the outskirts, who finally got together and say, we need a champion who will be able to face down Naraka. And there are two different traditions of this. In North India, they say Kali actually was the one who did it, and in South India, it's more Krishna did it. Okay, but whether whoever did it, the goddess or the god, but there was a grand battle between let's say Krishna, because the Vaishnavas are more in the majority with Diwali, and the defeat of Naraka happened. So that's the and not only is Naraka one demon, but he has an army of demons. So you can see where Halloween gets this. The demons are at large and they're coming to play tricks, right? It comes directly from this. So we have the attack and the defeat, and there is puja that is offered to help the gods be successful in overthrowing the demons. And everyone wears what's called kajal, which is a black eyeliner. Mostly women, but men also wear it. And it is supposed to keep out the evil eye of Naraka, so no one can turn you into a demon on that day. And you have chosen the side of light. But in a way, it's it seems to me, a camouflage, because it's a very black eyeliner. So it almost says, maybe you are one of them, but you are really keeping them from attacking you. And there's puja offered, but that's also the day when the oil lamps are lit, and in the evening, of course, and there are huge fireworks displays, right? Bigger than Bilbo the Hobbit had in the Shire. But fireworks are very popular in India, on Diwali especially. And of course, the fireworks are the defeat of the demons. It's the end of the world. It's the nuclear war at the end of time. So this is, they're celebrating it. It's auspicious. It's not a disaster. It's great. It's the end of the realm of demons and the beginning of the new world order, when the gods again take the earth and turn it into a holy kingdom of God. So that's what happens. Now, the oil lamp, this is to me the central symbol of the holiday. Okay, more even than the swastika, the oil lamp. And they're small lamps. You've probably seen them. They putting them on the floors and on the stairs, and they put them in the water, floating on the Ganges or whatever river they're on. They are. The idea behind it is, you are to become an oil lamp. These are symbols of yourself. Now, what does that mean? The oil is your in your heart. The oil in the lamp is the love you have for God. That's the oil. And the wick is the willpower that raises your kundalini to the third eye and lights it up so that your whole mind is illuminated, which is why I gave that metaphor in the meditation. So you are the light. You are the Ner Tamid. That's your role, is to be the carrier of the light of God, with your heart filled with love and with your mind totally enlightened with the radiance of God consciousness, and the will to remain constant in your remembrance of God. So there is never a fall, never a forgetting. And that is the significance of what you are to attain internally on this holiday. Okay, the next day is the most popular day, of course. This is... It's known mostly for Lakshmi Puja on this day, because Lakshmi is the first goddess who comes in after the defeat of Naraka to initiate the golden age, the new Sat Yuga. And she's the goddess of prosperity. So everyone is given the highest prosperity of every kind, mostly spiritual prosperity, meaning all the powers of God, but also prosperity on the phenomenal plane. But there's another, there is also the worship of Ganesha. And the tradition is that on this day, Lakshmi adopts Ganesha as her son. It's a very interesting metaphor, if you will, or mythologem. So Ganesha, of course, is the god of new beginnings and the god who is the remover of obstacles. And so unless you have your obstacles removed, obstacles meaning the ego and all of the ego's tendencies, until those are removed, you cannot have the new beginning and you cannot have the coming of Lakshmi. So there has to be a union of this, you could say, the desire to purify your heart, your mind, your soul, and become united with God, and then that divine goodness and power that brings prosperity, that changes your world, that makes your world from a place that's a hell realm into a heaven, will unfold, will emerge in your life, even if it's not time yet for it to happen for everyone. You will have attained that, and that will affect the morphogenic field so that everyone will be able to relate to that level of their being. So this is the main activity that goes on that day. And then on the final day, Bhai Dooj, or Raksha Bandhan. Now, Raksha Bandhan is another holiday, but it is repeated on this day. It's very interesting. And it is a theme in Indian religion that is one of the most important social aspects of the religiosity of a Hindu. And Bhai means brother. So it means that all the men in the society take a vow to treat all the women as their sisters. Okay? That they will have a brotherly, sisterly relation to them. They won't take advantage of them. They won't see them as sex objects. They won't treat them cruelly. They will treat them with love and with honor and respect. So it's a way to keep harmony and not a war between men and women. And and of course women also will take a vow of seeing the men as brothers. But there's more insistence on the brothers. That's why you don't say Ben, Ben is be sister. It's focus on the Bhai. And the Raksha Bandhan is there. You actually put on a kind of tefillin equivalent, the phylacteries that the Jews put on, which to vow that you will not hurt a woman if you're a man, and your relationships will be pure and will be noble and not fall into any vicious activities or projections. So it's a very powerful and transformative holiday for Hindus. They take this very seriously, or at least they did when I was in India. It was very, very much an important commitment, even if one were not a yogi. So those are the main activities, and the final puja is the puja for Vishvakarman. Vishvakarman is the architect of the gods. Okay, and so there is a celebration of the divine architecture of reality itself. There's an appreciation for the structure of reality expressed in the swastika, from a golden to a silver to a copper to an iron age, and then back to a new golden age, and the beauty of all the different aspects of reality able to emerge. Including to give some opportunity for the dark side to be expressed, but not to be able to gain hegemony over the light. And so that union, that forgiveness, that mercy, that shift from the demonic to the angelic, to the divine, is expressed in this holiday. In the same way that Halloween originally was the demons who would either get a trick or a treat by those that they went to their houses, the houses of the dharmic beings of the community. And if they wanted a treat, then they would act appropriately. Otherwise, they would receive a trick. It wasn't the other way around. And then it got shifted to the demons tricking the others if they didn't get a treat that they liked. But its original meaning was very different. And I remember when I was a kid, we did trick-or-treating in the neighborhood. I don't know if any of you grew up in that, but you could still do it. And it was actually a very... it was the most loveful holiday because you went to every neighbor in your whole area and you met them all, you know, in a very friendly way. And whole families joined in the trick-or-treating. And there was like a little festivity at every house, not just for the kids, but for the parents who were in the background, but they would also, you know, have their interactions and usually trade things that maybe included liquor or something else, but they were having a good time. So the holiday was actually bringing the whole social neighborhood together. And I think it had a very important use that now, of course, you can't, it's over. But it was a holiday with great meaningfulness in that sense. I remember I always used to dress up as a wizard. I wouldn't dress up as anything else. I don't know why that is. But and there is some of that trick-or-treat energy in Diwali. I remember my first Diwali at the ashram I was in India, and the one of the head senior sisters, Didi was her title. She was giving a satsang about Diwali and handing out sweets, because you do it. One of the things you hand out are cookies and other kinds of sweet desserts, and the Indians make all kinds of great sweet desserts. Or it's not always great, but they're always very sweet. And anyway, so I was sitting a few feet away, and she threw me one. She said, "This is special for you." And I thought, "Oh, great, a sweet thing." And I bit into it, and it was a hot pepper. Okay. Now, this was the moment of my enlightenment when I realized you couldn't trust Didi. So, you know, but it was a very interesting moment for me. But that kind of trick or treat, I took it as a compliment, you know, and as a kind of a special relation that she would bother to trick me like that. I don't think anyone else got the hot pepper that day, but anyway, that kind of thing happens. It's you know, there's a lot of practical jokes that happen on that day as well. So that's the. Can you erase all of that and let me write something else on the board? So the idea is to become an oil lamp, which means to become noble, and to love thy neighbor, and to be very aware of the presence of God in all of your thoughts in every moment. By the way, the tefillin, you know, the Jewish phylacteries, now that I mention them, they are very similar to this. You know, you put one on your third eye, right, which is with prayers in this little box, and you're surrendering your mind to God. And then the other one is on your arm, and with a leather strap. And on your palm, you are making the sign of the shin for Shaddai. And the shin, which also without a dot is a sin, which I think is not a coincidence that it refers to the same English word sin, but it is the two different ways that Shaddai can be understood. It is either breast or mountain. So you can either want to be breastfed, or you can want to climb the mountain of God and be free and liberated. But the idea is that you are committed to the attainment of this highest level of godhood. And the shin is kind of, in a way, it has three prongs to it, like the Trishula, and it is the innermost symbol or signifier of the power of God as the Almighty One. It's in particular, but I think of the Trishula and the Shin as having similarities to the tantric understanding, which is also in the Kashmir Shaivites. It's with the Buddhists. It's with a lot of the wisdom schools that developed in India. That the obstacles that Ganesha is helping you to overcome are three, and these three are the main core of the resistances of the ego. And these three, in the Sanskrit names, Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. Well, okay, I'll write the English too. Raga is usually translated as passion. Dvesha is usually translated as hate. And Moha, attachment. Now, I would say underneath all of these is fear. And that it's fear that gives rise to all three of these. I haven't seen that in the scriptures, but that to me is psychologically more accurate. But the way that it comes out in people's lives, I think, is in the form of raga, dvesha, and moha. And the problem with getting rid of these three is that to the ego, these are not obstacles. These are goals. These are features. These are your powers, you know. Passion. Everybody wants to have passion. Nobody wants to give up passion, right? People complain because they don't have enough passion, you know. They want more passion, not less. And I want passion for this, I want passion for that. You know, everyone is either complaining that they don't have enough passion, or they're totally obsessed with a particular passion to such an extent that they're not interested in the jnana or in reaching higher states. So the problem with passion is that it is egosyntonic, not ego-dystonic. In other words, the ego likes its passions. And so to get someone to shift their attitude toward that is very difficult. To want liberation from your passions is usually the last thing that you want. But dvesha, hatred, think how important your hatred is to you if you're still in the ego. I mean, your hatred is your compass. You know, it's your way of understanding reality. When you have to know who to hate, right? And who to demonize and who to trust if you do have anyone you trust. But hatred is much more important because most people don't trust. Now, I link a lot of this back to in the Western world to the Abrahamic religious traditions, and that's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam equally, because here you have a God who comes out and says, "My name is jealous," all right. And he's an angry God, a wrathful God, a punishing God, a murderous God, an inconsistent God, in fact, even an irrational God, okay? And then his first commandment is, you're going to love me. You're going to love me with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Get it? You know? So, all right, can you really love under those conditions? You know, I mean, most people probably do love under those conditions these days and think of their own parents very similarly to how Moses was portraying Jehovah. But nonetheless, what happens then is that the signifier love has the signified of hate. What you love is what you hate. And what you hate is actually what you love. The two can't be separated. Everyone hates their mother. But, oh no, I love my mother. Yes, you love her because you hate her. And you hate her because you love her, and you're tied to her, and you can't leave her, and you can't have a life separate. And why are you forcing me to... All right, so that leads to the third one, is attachment, you see? The reason you hate is that you're attached, and you can't break your attachment, even though it's a hostile dependency, and you wish you weren't attached, but nonetheless, you feel like a needy child. I can't let go. No, I'll be lost. I'll be abandoned. I won't be able to deal with life if I don't hold on to my attachments. So these three are all enmeshed. They're an integrated vice that literally like the vice that is used in a shop, that's holding you in place. As an ego. And you can't let go of any of those three because they are what give an ego body. They give it a sense of existence. I am because I hate, and because I hate, I have passion, and I love, and I'm attached. And the whole thing is connected. It's a whole. You can't let go of one without letting go of the other two. And so because the ego sees the world through these three, every relationship is a projection that includes passion, hatred, and attachment in different percentages and proportions, but they're all there. And so there cannot be a purity of divine love because the love-hatred is endemic to the ego. It cannot define love any other way. And it cannot free itself from the neediness of feeling like a child who has to have control of mother and has to break the law of the father, etc. So all of these obstacles are present at the very core of the identity that the ego wants to sustain. It doesn't want them to die. And that's why it takes so long to turn someone into a real Sat Yogi, or to turn yourself into a real Sat Yogi. No one can do it. It has to happen from inside. So Sat Yoga, that's the good thing about Sat Yoga. It can't be a cult because nobody here would follow a cult leader. No, they would hate him. I know, there's some of that anyway. But the point is that you're too smart for that. You're too cynical. You're too hating of society and hating of the traditions and of God and of love and of all of that to want to follow anyone in following rules, in surrendering, in submitting. There's an autonomy. If I'll do it my way, thanks. I don't need I don't need this information even, right? There's that sense of rejection of everything, and that rejection is part of the hatred of the ego. So the ego, in order for it to be overcome, requires literally a superhuman effort. And that's what Diwali is really about. How can we make that effort? Can we overcome the demons, especially at the moment when they're at their highest power, meaning internally within the ego? The demons are ruling every individual mind, let alone the macrocosm. And so the good news is that this is the last night of the demons. Halloween is the final night, or the night of Naraka. There's two other meanings of Diwali. One of course, the coming of Lakshmi, not just the killing of Naraka, but there's a third meaning, which is that Diwali is celebrating the moment of the victory of Ram over Ravana, and his returning with Sita and with Lakshmana, his brother. In fact, with his whole gang, he acquires a vimana. and they fly victorious to Ayodhya. Ayodhya is a famous name of a cat now, but it's also the name of the place where Rama and Sita got married. And so they renew their vows, and that is another way of understanding the new kingdom of heaven is underway. So it's whether you worship Ram or Vishnu, which is of course Shiva backwards, or Shiva or any of the other gods or goddesses, the same story is underway. And the story requires Hanuman. And what is the monkey? It's the monkey mind of the ego that has to overcome itself and become divine. It has to achieve a victory over its own tendencies. It has to completely transform itself alchemically, magically, not with the help of someone else, not with some kind of a process where you are treated as a patient, for example. No, you have to become the one who is the alchemist, and you have to accomplish this transformation because you want to, not because others want you to. And you can't do it with plant medicines or any other kind of altered state help. You have to do it by altering your own state, using your willpower and using your love of God as the means of alteration. So that's the way it's done. And the final commitment of Diwali is, I shall be a constant light unto the world. A light that never goes out. And I will make God myself. No self but God. Which is really the meaning of Allahu Akbar and La Allah, La La. That whole idea of no God but God. It's really no self but God. That's the real significance. If you still have a separate self from God, you have not become a light unto the world. You're still under the influence of the demons. You're maybe on All Hallows Eve, but you haven't shifted to All Saints Day. And so that's the celebration, it's the shift from the demonic to the divine. And it's only the demons who become divine. So you have to have these, but you have to turn your passion into a passion for dispassion. And you have to turn you have to hate the demon of passion and demonize hatred. And you have to hate hatred. And then you have to be attached to detachment. But it's the same energies, but now turned upside down, that become the upper death drive. So this is the way of self-transformation. But how many of you can make the commitment now that you will be a light, a constant ner tamid, a light that never goes out unto the world, and shine with that divine love in your heart and the light of the recognition of the presence of God everywhere, and seeing it everywhere, and seeing the radiance and shining into the world with that radiance, and being the embodiment that is fearless, because fear is underlying it. And if you have any fear, you're not a Sat Yogi. Fear is unworthiness. There must be total fearlessness, absolute fearlessness, in order to achieve this victory. Can everybody make the commitment to be the light unto the world? Because that's what we must accomplish for real. Okay? So the shift in terms of yoga is from Hatha Yoga to Jnana Yoga to Raja Yoga to Sat Yoga. Okay? Hatha Yoga. Hatha means sun moon. It's the binary. It's duality. It's the yoga of the body. That's the yoga of the ego. The ego is still attached to the body. there's a vicious ego. But that ego is performing the yoga as its sadhana in order to become divinized through pranayamas, through the asanas that symbolize the higher states, through the mudras, through all of the rituals and paraphernalias of hatha yoga. There's then able to be a shift to jnana yoga. Now, the jnana is the truth, the knowledge that makes you noble. The word noble, which comes from Arya, but the word noble comes via the Latin and Greek, and the know part is the nous, the nous, the mind, and the mind meaning gnosis, right? It is, and the ball is power. It's the power of gnosis or of jnana. It's the power of truth to overcome the identification with ego and raga, dvesha, and moha, and to cut all of that. And that is what makes you noble. But then there's a third step, which is to go from being noble to being royal. Okay? What's the difference between a noble person and a royal one? Remember, the word royal means real also, right? Yes, go ahead.
Noble has to make an effort, and for the royal it's effortless.
It is effortless, but the real difference is this. The noble one is the one who has made themselves into embodiments of goodness, of purity, of loving kindness, of virtue, etc. But the royal one is the one who takes responsibility for making the whole community divine, the whole world divine, takes responsibility for the kingdom. And if you take responsibility for the kingdom, then you get the throne. If you're only interested in your own personal liberation, but not in the liberation of all, then there's still a selfishness. There's not yet a royalty, even though it's a noble mode of living, but it's not living yet in true royalty, which brings the three reals into unity. The real three of the absolute, the real two of divine love, and the real one of the phenomenal, where the rubber meets the road. That has to be where the royalty is proven. So you go from the vicious to the noble to the royal, but then there has to be a final achievement of divine royalty. It's not simply human royalty. It's not only responsibility for the kingdom on the phenomenal plane. It's responsibility for the divine wholeness of the Rita, the cosmic order, the absolute order. And in the same way that if you look at the swastika, you'll see there's two versions. One where it seems to be going to the right and the other to the left, right? One represents the timeline of the world of matter and the other of antimatter. And the divine royalty takes responsibility for both, you see, and for the unification of reality into the singularity. So it's that final achievement which eliminates Naraka, eliminates the hell realm by annihilating a cosmos that has fallen to the dark side, and renews the world from the mind of God to produce a kingdom of heaven. And it's that is the final fulfillment of the human mission, and to become as gods once again and create a world of gods and goddesses who will then proceed to unfold all of the wonders and magic and infinite beauties of the mind of God through time. So that's what we're celebrating on this holiday. And in Halloween, we're celebrating a version of that, where we move from representing and being in attunement to the demonic, to attuning to the divine, and transforming and becoming saints, and then The final day is All Souls Day, when we shine with such power that all souls are uplifted into God consciousness, and the royalty is achieved. So this is our function, and it's all laid out on this holiday.